What was once a house of faith filled with believers is now an empty church. In January, the 129-year-old Immaculate Conception in Youngstown and 88-year-old St. Elizabeth Church in Camel held their last masses before closing as part of the diocese reconfiguration. Now the question is what to do with these buildings.
The quick answer is, well, it's only brick and mortar. But it is brick and mortar, but it's brick and mortar where people's faith has come alive. And you can't brush it to the side like that.
That's why the diocese is very careful about who purchases the buildings.
Churches have ended up being breweries or other things that people, when they look at it, have a real hard time saying, this is where we worshiped and now look what they're doing with it.
While there are no buyers right now, the diocese hopes the churches will be used for education, community services, or reused, like the Franciscan monastery in Columbiana, which was turned into St. Mary's Alzheimer's Center.
That kind of a transfer of property, those kinds of service-oriented professions or concerns, I think, are a little easier for people to see.
But while the buildings are certainly beautiful, they're large and costly to maintain, which is a deterrent to smaller churches that have considered buying them.
Once we talk to them about what it may cost you, it's not feasible.
For now, the diocese is removing items from the churches. Immaculate Conception moved its altar and components of its pipe organ to Sacred Heart, but not everything will fit in one building. These Catholic churches are full of special items like altars and holy objects like this golden tabernacle that won't just be simply disposed of. The tabernacle will move on to the next church, and there is a process for moving and reusing all of these items. Permanent fixtures like windows are removed, cataloged, and used in other churches.
They can be sold. Sometimes they will be shipped off to missions like the Philippines or South America, Central America.
Unusable books or broken statues have a special disposal.
Burying, as strange as it may sound, is one of the more appropriate dispositions.
As for the churches, the diocese hopes to hear from an appropriate buyer, and they hope cities will take an interest in the future of the buildings. What they don't want is for them to fall into disrepair.
As hard as it may sound, sometimes the demolition of a building is easier to take than watching it sit for years and deteriorate and deteriorate.
And the hope is that these historic houses of worship don't become just another abandoned building in the valley. With more local news, I'm Sally Phillips.